Welcome to Besiege, the real home of robotic combat in Besiege. In this episode, we complete the featherweight bracket redemption round and find the final 4 members of the top 16. We kick things off in this one with a battle between 2 powerful spinners and close out the episode with what promises to be a destructive battle between Tamale 3 and low amounts of Patriotism. Montante lost out in a close, somewhat controversial decision against the newcomer Poison Water, but showed off their driving skill and their spinner's power. Here, they try to take down a powerful horizontal spinner to earn their way back into contending for the title. Comet had an unfortunate showing in its rumble, having its weapon motor broken on the very first hit of the fight and being launched into the pit not long after. Team Angry American wants to show what their spinner can really do in this one. We kick things off in episode 8 with a battle between Montante and Comet. 2 pretty powerful spinners here. Good strong vertical and a horizontal. Comet loses a steering hinge off the side of its chassis there. I think if it loses the other one on the other side, it's in danger of losing the whole front part of its chassis. Gets flipped over there, able to self-right. I made a mistake in the first Comet fight that it was unable to self-right. It had actually just lost its self-right mechanism, but it's got it in this one. Montante with the advantage early, only really glancing hits from Comet, who are showing some pretty poor control so far. Montante doing a great job hitting that leading edge of Comet, launched them way up into the air. Decent hit from Comet there. Montante have this anti-horizontal setup with the plows at the front to protect their wheels. Another big hit on Comet. They're just getting thrown around by Montante in the early going. Decent hit there though. They keep stopping and starting the weapon as to avoid grabber explosions, but well, that time they just bounced themselves hard off the wall and wow, a lot broke. That whole right side of the chassis got decimated. They're trying to self-right in the corner here. Montante lining up, looking to pit them, and they get them into the pit. Very well done from Montante. A dominant win. Montante become the first spot from this episode through the round of 16, and Comet is eliminated from Spring Bash Cup. Beatbox had a rough time in its rumble, despite managing an excellent shot that took out the weapon of Comet mere seconds into the fight. They were ultimately dominated and thrown into the pit by Zap. Mist Inc. will be wanting to prove that they're still a strong competitor in a vert vs vert matchup. Li3 was showing some good control in their rumble before ultimately being flipped into a position they could not come back from and being counted out. They want to show that short verts can compete with longer verts in a tough stylistic matchup here. Underway with fight number 2 here between Li3 and Beatbox. Good hit early from Beatbox. Beatbox's weapon was pretty good in its rumble, but unfortunately got disabled pretty quickly by Zap with its flipper. Li3 doing a good job pushing Beatbox toward the pit. Oh, they're very close, and they're straight into the pit. Oh, that's very disappointing for Beatbox and Mist Inc. But Team Pilot Light wins, Li3 through to the round of 16. Beatbox is eliminated from Spring Bash Cup. Larry Jr. showed off its durability in its rumble, eating big hits from 2 powerful spinners and managing to make it to a decision. In this fight, Larry comes up against a clusterbot consisting of 2 flippers, and so will need to showcase their driving skill to win. Sensory Overload were knocked down into the redemption round after losing out in their rumble to Krakatoa 2. Team Mistakes Were Made will look to be taking revenge on the Diddlers by eliminating Larry Jr. in this one. And we're underway with fight number 3. We have the battle of the control bots in this one, in Sensory Overload and Larry Jr. Larry Jr. is a very compact bot that's mostly meant for fighting spinners. It has this setup to deal with other control bots, but it's likely going to have a tough time with the cluster. Also, funnily enough, you can see Larry Jr. is so compact that it's about the same size as each of the cluster bots, in spite of having a weight advantage over them. So in the early going, it seems the sensory overloads are controlling Larry pretty well, keeping him in the corner, taking it in turns to get the flips off. Good self-riding there. One of the sensory overloads lost that little prop that helps it I don't know if it helps it self-ride or it makes the flipper do something. I'm not sure entirely what those props are for. Props are propellers, in case anyone was wondering. So Larry gets flipped up there. Really just being controlled and juggled is Larry. Manages to get away now for a sec. Oh, bit of lag it seems from Larry. Oh, and he almost goes into the pit, but just barely avoids it. Manages to get himself self-righted as well. Larry misses a flip there. He's just finding having a very hard time. If he gets under one of the sensory overloads, the other one just comes up behind him and gets him flipped again. It's good driving from sensory overload. They're not getting in each other's way, keeping Larry basically off kilter the entire time. They also seem to have the better wedge. Just perfect synchronized flipping there. Like, this is really fun to watch, actually. This is what a team who is known for having good cluster bots can do when they have a good matchup advantage. Larry actually kind of got under there, but he's really just not been able to get any control going in this fight. Thrown up against the wall there, Larry managed to back out a bit. He's doing a good job, at least, of keeping himself away from the pit for the most part. Oh, the sensory overloads almost flipped each other there, but they back off. There's some good pushing from Larry here. Really the first control Larry's managed to get all fight. And then well, he's under. That was a good flip. He's looking to get one of them into the pit. Oh, he gets flipped up and up and into the pit. That's a really good win for Sensory Overload over Larry Jr. So Sensory Overload wins by pit KO and moves on to the round of 16, while Larry Jr. is eliminated from Spring Bash Cup. Low amounts of Patriotism fought valiantly in its rumble, but ultimately lost out to the overwhelming damage score from Krakatoa 2. Their job doesn't get any easier in this fight, taking on a dangerous hammerbot in Tamale 3. Tamale 3 was performing well in its rumble, showing off its high-flying style before it flew a little too high and went over the arena wall. In this fight, Team Questionable Engineering will look to show more composure and pick their shots more carefully. Here we kick off the main event and we'll find our final bot heading into the round of 16, as well as our last bot to be eliminated from the redemption round with no wins. And a wheel gets taken off of low amounts of Patriotism. I was about to say this is going to be a tough fight for low amounts of Patriotism. It's a fairly durable bot that's good at taking hits from spinners, but not so good at taking hits from hammers. Since the hammer can kind of get around that front plate and just hit directly into the chassis. Tamale almost pits itself there. That's very reminiscent of how it lost in its rumble, where it threw itself out of the arena while over swinging on a hit too close to a wall. It's what they really need to be careful of. They need to be a lot more controlled with their hammer swings in this fight. Only go for really big swings in the center of the arena, and if they're near a wall, just tappa. They're getting controlled a little bit, not doing too much damage so far, but that's bound to change. Oh, they actually did remove... Oh no, that's still just the wheel that's over in that corner. My apologies. Actually, that right side looks weakened. I'm not sure exactly what's broken, but likely it's some steering hinge connections that are running in between the logs that I think it's only being held on by like that back segment, and the whole lifter gets ripped out there. That's not good for low amounts of patriotism. Now it's basically just a... Well, it's not basically. It is just a wedge bot at this point. And it's getting systematically broken apart. Piece by piece by Tamale 3 at this point. They look like either they're having technical issues or they're trying to bait Tamale near the pit and the wall. Which, frankly... Either way, it's good for them if they can keep Tamale near the wall and try and make them overswing and ooter themselves, because it's their best shot at winning this fight. As Tamale breaks another chunk of the chassis out, destroying some log connections and some steering hinges. That's an impressive hit. Ripping out some more steering hinges from the chassis. I am mentioning steering hinges if people watching this aren't familiar with Besiege. Steering hinges are one of the main chassis building components we use, as they have good connection strength on both sides. Low amounts of patriotism isn't moving. Has it run out of wheels? No, it still has a wheel left. Oh, I think it was high centered on its own flying block that got broken there. I thought it might have been connection issues, but I think actually it was high-centered on its own flying block. It's upside down now. I think it's only got the one wheel and a flying block. Yeah, it's only got one wheel and a flying block. Another log gets ripped out. It's gonna be actually quite hard for Tamale to break it to some extent now, because it's so light that it's just gonna get thrown around instead of getting snapped. Which is an interesting wrinkle in this battle now. Tamale lining them up for a potential pit, but on the backswing of the hammer they pull them out, and that's time. I think we can all guess how the judges saw it, but we'll see. Yeah, 10-5 aggression to Tamale. LOP gets control. 9-1 damage to Tamale in a 3-2 style. 30-15 decision. Tamale through to the round of 16. LAOP is eliminated. That's it for this episode. Our final 4 bots heading into the round of 16 are Montante, Li3, Sensory Overload, and Tamale 3. Our final 4 bots leaving the competition from this round are Vomit Comet, Beatbox, Larry Jr., and Low Amounts of Patriotism. In the next episode, we will begin the lightweight bracket round of 16. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please leave a like, comment, and consider subscribing. If you're interested in joining our community, follow the Discord link in the description. From everyone on the Besiege Bots Discord, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon.